Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. So this week, update content. We got a new story. Again, I still need to catch up. Just gonna do the highlights as I usually do and my thoughts on certain things. So new piece of equipment, attack set to complete that set we've been getting. Substats are good, but I've rolled something like this. I think it was another set or something like that. It was a T71 epic on attack set, attack main. I think it was an event one actually, and it all rolled health. So I mean, it is only 50% attack at the end of this, but if you do roll high crit chance, high crit damage, that would be good. Still like 10% attack for really good crit chance, good damage could be useful. So kind of nice to have, especially it's free. The exclusive equipment, I want to touch upon this pretty quick. I think this is probably the biggest thing in this patch. General Purrgis, Cermia, and Bellona. And of course, the idea behind these are so that players will bring them back out, to play with again. Which I think, at least for me, General Purrgis and Bellona seems to be usable again. Cermia, I'm kind of half-half. I'll explain why. So we have General Purrgis, Tear Stain Badge, 7 to 14% health, which is really good. Imprint for himself, imprint concentration is health as well. So he's going to get a ton. Plus, he already has really high base HP. So I don't own General Purrgis myself. Kind of always wanted him, but then he kind of fell off. I don't have C-Arm and I don't have Oxalot. So I feel like those two, to me, even at this point, are more important, especially when I'm planning an attack. But however, with General Purrgis' new exclusive equipment, I do think that he's a lot more usable now. I like a Spearhead. So Spearhead, that's his, I think it's passive, right? That's passive. Spearhead is there's two parts to it. So I'll call it S2-1, S2-2 for the sake of this video. 20% chance to increase the defense with a cast for 2 turns when attack. I mean, really, all General Purrgis' kit does is attack me, attack me, attack me. So, I mean, when you do have him on like a speed or whatever, you make him a tank, pumps up the entire team, and he's supposed to be run kind of like a bait. And you can provoke. 75% chance to provoke on his S1, which is really good. So, the rate of him getting attacked, especially if you use him on an offense team, is pretty high. Now, it is 20%, so 1 out of 5. So, if you're going into a fight, let's say, I don't know, versus, I mean, Assassin Collie works, I guess, but like if you're versing like an Assassin Collie D Corvus team with him, you just got to make sure your attackers are pretty strong. In that case, even I would say like a pretty rampant GVG defense comp is like Assassin Collie, Dark Corvus, and Ruel. In that case, I would even almost run like him maybe on Spearhead 1. And run him with like a Luna and Cermia or something like that, like 2 nukers. So after he sets himself up with attack buffs, just bring 2 nukers and the game's pretty much over there. If luckily you stun Assassin Collie on your turn with General Purrgis, that'd be good too. But do keep in mind that his effect resistance has to be pretty high. Otherwise, Assassin Collie may stun him. But just stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty cool. He does have decently high defense as well, 620 base. It's not the best defensive knight, but he is a warrior. So I mean, 620 is nothing. It's no joke. He can be built easily as a tank with enough speed. So I mean, I've seen that before. Easily 20,000 HP, like 1500 defense, and like 200 speed, something like that. So it's like Crow level. So with that proccing, it's kind of like a mini F Maya, but of course you are rolling more RNG. Increase in combat readiness by another 3%. That's your other option. Initially, if you max Mola, it's a 15% CR boost every time he gets attacked for the entire party, including himself. So I mean, it's really good. 3% if you're really like fine tuning your fight. Let's say, for example, I think if you go in like GVG, you know exactly what speeds the enemies are at, and you need to get that additional 3%. I think it could be worth it. But I think more general, if you're using him for like a scouting team, I would still say Spearhead 1 would probably be my choice there. And then command to charge, his S3 skill cooldown by 1 turn, decrease skill cooldown by 1 turn. I personally don't like this one as much. I'd probably stick to Spearhead if I had him. Getting into 1 turn is still a really long cooldown. I think it's up to a 4 turn. If you have this command to charge, have this on him, it's up to a 4 turn cooldown, but only a 2 turn buff. So while it can still help, and if you just imagine, let's say you have him running against like a AoE team, like SSB or like Dizzy or something like that, like a AoE team where he can survive or your teammates can survive as well, having the cooldown on him might be really good because he could cycle it pretty fast. But that being said, I think for survivability wise, for the entire team, I think being Spearhead 1 would be good. But it's situational. Now let's get to Cermia. So Cermia up to another 14% attack. Infinite concentration is another, I think 18% attack as all 5-star heroes concentrations. 18% attack, so really Cermia can be looking at very, very, very high attack. Just slop on any one of the 3 here with the highest attack, and you've really gotten a big buff already. Especially she has really high base attack. Now we were reading this on stream before I did the recording. Playing with fire, that's the S1, 25% chance to grant an extra attack. Originally when I read this, I thought it was like RNL. If it's like RNL and grants an extra turn, which is usually the way that it's written, then it would be really good. I think I would go with S1 like no brainer. But because it seems to be reading like a Dust Devil, 25% chance to grant an extra attack. Seems to be reading like Dust Devil. I think it will be like Dust Devil. However, there is one thing that is not written here. That on Dust Devil, at least, it says it can proc only if the target isn't dead. So on the target you're aiming for, if they're not dead, it can grant an extra attack. So Dust Devil, at least a plus 30 would be a 30%. This is a 25. This doesn't say that though. This doesn't say that. So it could be possible that if you can kill with the S1, perhaps it can still grant that extra attack on a random target. Because it's not an extra turn, so you can't retarget. So we'll have to see. But that's what the reading looks like right now. Not enough info on the S1 there, but if it is, I almost think that is almost the best one out of these. Yeah, that's going off like initial reading. For me, I'm on Cermia on all 3. I'm not siding on either one. Again, I think most of it's situational, but like for general Purrgis, I can lean towards one. Hot Streak is the S2, so grants you a greater attack buff, but this will grant you an extra barrier for 2 turns. So the same length as her greater attack buff, and the barrier is proportional to the caster's attack. So the strength of the barrier. I was saying that depends on how strong this barrier actually is scaled off the attack. This can be usable or not. Usually, I mean, like put it this way: if you are running her in a PvP setting, having a barrier on her, if she's not protected in terms of like baits, like if someone is not baiting away attacks or provoking attacks away, she's just not really strong enough to survive too long anyway. So it does depend on the barrier strength. If you're going in an AoE fight, of course, it's going to be high risk, even if it's an AoE like Earth unit, because we all know that on a defense team, RNG is on the defense team side. So like, let's say a Bellona is on the defense team, you bring Cermia into it, there's like a 90% chance she'll hit you and crit. So just got to be careful of that. So I don't think it's very usable in PvP. On PvE though, come to think of it, I think it could be usable, especially if you don't have enough sustain. So let's say, for example, you're running like an auto golem run, but you can't do a one-shot team. This might be okay, but again, the cooldown duration, and depends how fast your Cermia is, could be a game changer in terms of like not getting this up quick enough. So like, again, that goes to, you know, back to the question, like, are you going to use this? I'm not 100% sure, but I think it does depend on the scaling. Now, all in is quite interesting. If you kill, it decreases the skill cooldown for Hot Streak by 2 turns. Now, a Hot Streak is the S2, which by default the skill is to reset the S3. You won't chain as fast as you might think, although you know, now thinking about it, it could be one of the better ones. Although again, in a PvP setting, going back to that scenario, if you're not baiting away attacks, if you're not provoking away attacks, Cermia is not gonna last that long to benefit from the 2-turn skill cooldown. While in a long-term fight, this could be usable. I would say actually then, yeah, this wouldn't be useful in PvE unless you're farming with her. Because if you kill the boss, it's over anyway. So you wouldn't reset the cooldown. So I don't know, man. I'm not quite sure about this, in my opinion. I think Cermia for me right now, if you're bringing her in a PvP setting, she's usually there to like 1 to 2 turn kill, and then that's it, and you're out. So I would almost say playing with fire would be my go-to on this one, although you're rolling some RNG. The other ones I'm not so sure about. If you go, yeah, I would say I'm not sure about this. Because usually if I use Cermia, I would go 2 nukes. I would go try to get an attack buffer up before she attack buffs herself. Do all in. That should kill. Usually. If you have a soul burn, that's granted for sure. Almost nothing can survive that. And then you go into hot streak on your second turn, and then you do it again, but this time with a greater attack buff. So yeah, I feel that her 3 are probably the least interesting in terms of this. Let's put it this way. I feel that the exclusive equipment itself is not enough for you to use Cermia more than you already did. That's probably the better way to put it. Whereas General Purrgis, I think so, and I think even Bellona right now. So let's get into this. So Citrine Treasure, effectiveness up to 16%. Butterfly Fan is interesting. S2, Butterfly Fan does more damage as more people are on the map. So it's pretty cool. It does quite a bit of damage, to be honest, but I never invested in that skill myself. I never used her as a damage dealer. But it seems that they're still kind of pushing her away from being a full-on damage dealer. The effectiveness in the main stat there dispels 1 buff each from all enemies, which is fantastic. Razorwind Fan, so S3-1, 20% more chance of decreased defense. So right away she gets a 100% defense break. So 100% defense break is up there now for the best defense breakers. Tywin for Ice Elemental, 100%, and now Bellona for Earth, 100%. So that is a pretty big buff. Although I am myself not 100% sure if I'm gonna run Bellona, which one would I use? I kind of like the Razorwind Fan 2 as well. Decreased combat readiness all enemies by 15%. Now, for those who use Bellona and are familiar, I mean, Razorwind Fan is one of those really cool skills. Once she gets her focus gauge up from her S1, and only from her S1, she'll proc S3 right away. So, I mean, potentially, if you do have her on like something like Rosa artifact, so other heroes proccing her S1, you can be getting this quite a bit. But that's to be said that when she does proc with a full focus gauge, the defense break is already at 100%. So then in that case, having Razorwind Fan 1 wouldn't be as nice as number 2. But I kind of like the fact that I can't really choose for Bellona, and it's totally different from the Cermia mentality. Cermia, I can't choose because I don't know which one's actually good. Bellona, I can't choose because I don't know which one I want better, like more, in terms of like they're all really good. Ideally, if she would have had the Dispel on the Butterfly Fan in her innate kit, not on the exclusive equipment, that would make her a bit too broken in my opinion. Because the thing I'm thinking about is, like, you know, people run immunity heroes, they run immunity buffers. So if you're gonna have the combat readiness pushback, you most likely want to strip that. But still, I'll take it because I think Bellona easily could be a second turn CR pushback, and they're you know, from there on as well. So I'm kind of like leaning towards Razorwind Fan, the second one. And not only that, I mean, not only in PvP, in PvE, that's also very good. PvE, the CR pushback, if they're prone to it, if they're not immune to it, that it can actually be very good crowd control. So I really love that. Whereas the dispel buff one is kind of like on a PvE setting, I think, but it can still be used. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the exclusive equipment. I actually am kind of interested in Bellona's for sure. So now Cerila's Witch Hat will be available as well to purchase. Actually, I don't even know why. Oh, I guess for people who maybe missed the event, because I think we already got everyone who was in the event would have Cerila's exclusive equipment already anyway. So that's pretty good. Let's see. So Kawana here, Fire Thief. So looking at this, so she's a Pisces. So that is kind of interesting. I have Merce's kit open here. So Mersa is a 3-star compared to Kawana being a 4-star. I think these are the only 2 Pisces now that will be in the game. Attack is very low on Mersa. At max 6-star awaken, it's 885. That's extremely low. But health 4,400. Speed is 120. That's kind of like mid-tier for a thief. I think like Fire Haste, even though he's a Gemini, has 120 as well. Defense is 501. Yeah, again, still very low. The only thing I could see here is the crit chance is 27%. So on Mercer is 27%, and assuming that Kawana will be the same, and effectiveness is 18%. It seems like Kawana is more like a debuffer instead of a full-on damage dealer. Although there is something interesting that I'm reading here. To play with a full team of fire elemental heroes, so I think in Golem, as a Bad Finest said on stream before, she'll be good for Golem, but as a joke, I mean, it's a meme going on now. I mean, every fire hero that doesn't have a role in PvP is automatically shoved into Golem fights. While I do agree, I think it can be the case. I don't necessarily think she's super cool in my opinion. So yeah, let's take a look. So after awakening S1, attacks the enemies with sharp sickles 35%, up to a 50% if you Mola. Chance to inflict 2 bleeding for 2 turns. I mean, that's nice setup and all that, but like we got so many bleeding thieves now, it's ridiculous. We have so many other ones that can really set up, but yeah, I don't know. If the enemy is debuffed after attack, additional damage is inflicted. So a lot of our damage comes from different types of situations, which I can find that could be interesting. Again, depends on the data mine, but you know, am I gonna use a Fire Thief with stats that low that's just for debuffers? At least in PvP, I don't think so. PvE, I won't even build her just because I think that there's too many good fire elemental heroes right now. So I can't really think of a reason why you would. But I apologize. That's not really professional. Putting my bias in right before even reading all the skills. So S2 attacks all enemies. So AoE, increasing attacks for all allies for 2 turns. And then when all allies are fire elemental heroes, grants all allies skill nullifier for 1 turn. Again, situational, very situational. The attack buff, of course, granted, that's really nice. But then you're forcing all fire elemental heroes. Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, you could build it pretty fast. I mean, 120 speed is no joke. So you could build it pretty fast to cycle. Again, maybe for Golem. But if it's a 4-turn cooldown, no reduction in the cooldown in the Mola. So 4 turns. If you have her on RNL, that could be interesting though. I think a go-to artifact would be RNL for her for the reduction of the skill cooldown, and then of course for the additional damage inflicted for the debuff attack on the S1. Granted that if your other heroes are not doing debuffs, of course, but RNL could be interesting on her, I guess. And then the S3, so attacks the enemy single target, stunning for 1 turn before dispelling 2 debuffs. So the stun comes first and then the dispel. So very different from, let's say, like Fiend's exclusive equipment, or actually no, sorry, not even exclusive equipment. Fiend's S3, where it does the dispel before the stun, and it's dispel all. So quite a big difference. But of course, we are talking about a 5-star versus a 4-star. But the stun is nice to have. Yes, the dispel is nice to have. and increases damage dealt when all allies are fire elemental heroes. Again, playing on this kind of a new mechanic. I think this is a first time seeing this, if I remember correctly. I'm thinking of all the heroes right now that might have something like this. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. The closest thing I can think of is like specialty changed Hazel, mascot Hazel's greater attack buff on fire elemental heroes, but that doesn't require all elemental, like all fire elemental heroes. My question would be more of like, let's say you have a party of like, let's say Surin, I don't know, mascot Hazel, Kawana, and like Baiken. If Baiken dies off, is this granted? I'm assuming it would be, in terms of like all the fire elemental hero ones, which is the S2 and the S3. I'm assuming that's the case. Otherwise, I would say that the usefulness of this is very, 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 very minimal. I'll read this comment. So Demiplane says she's early game Golem 11, trying hard to push mid game for newer players. Would she be though? Like, if you pulled her compared to other heroes, maybe. But still, like, would you really build her to be a golem? I don't know. If people got Serila, Serila is gonna be a pretty good go-to. I don't know. I'm not sure about the. I mean, yeah, skill nullifier is nice, but it doesn't prevent you from stun or the defense break. The bleed could be okay, but that can get dispelled, and then you can't stun him. So I feel like, I mean, other than the maybe increasing from the fire elemental heroes might be okay, but other than that, I feel like you're just throwing random stuff into Golem. I just don't feel that her kit is just like, it's so Golem specific, you know. Whereas like Cerilla's buff was like, oh, perfect for Golem. You got like defense breaks, you got all that stuff, right? But I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. I'll cover the last bit here. Just little tidbits when I'm reading this. I definitely think that this is a good one. So additional improvements, I wanted to bring this up. So additional improvements will be made in the equipment artifact inventory section, so that after tapping the sell button, the cancel button is more easily distinguishable. I was saying this, I mean, it's been a year of me playing Epic 7. I was saying that's a very early game, that they need to fix this. I'm a UI UX designer by trade, and that really bothered me. Whenever, you know, even now after a year of playing, I still make the mistake sometimes pressing the sell and then the cancel button, whereas it's really weird. It's really weird. If you are a player that has played this game and you do run into the same issue, and I'm not the only one that suffers from this apparently. Multiple people are saying that, hey, yeah, it still happens to me. I just find it kind of interesting that, yeah, you know, they're making improvements all the time, which is fantastic for the developers, and it's interesting that they finally got to this one. I don't know if anybody legitimately complained about it. It's a small thing. People just usually shake it off, but most likely internal game testing made them find this out. Like, this is actually pretty annoying. yes. Yeah. So people on stream is like, yes, I keep selling. You keep pressing sell after sell, and then the question is like, why can't I sell my items? Yes, exactly. It's weird. It's a weird thing until you actually experience it. You don't really think about it. If you're looking at like a screenshot, I don't have a screenshot here, but if you're looking at a screenshot and you're looking at the UI, you're just like, oh, how can anyone make that mistake? Because sell looks like a big button, but the thing is, it's more of like, yeah, I think it's more of like a human psychology thing, I guess. I don't know, but that is what UX design is. It's really about the human mind. Anyways, I think that's it. That's it for this one. So yeah, I just covered the exclusive equipment and then Kawana for this one. So I'm gonna end this one here. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next RBTL.